Welcome back to Riding with Cash. Hope you're well and safe. Today's the day I'm going to actually wash the bike because I've taken through all different terrains. Long distance, short distance, rough terrains, heavy rains. I've seen strong winds. Pretty much driven through summer all the way to fall, different kind of weather patterns. So it's a great time to talk about this bike at this point, the good stuff and the not so good stuff. There is a nuance in this bike that we should talk about, and I'll come to this later. So first now, let's wash this bike. One of the simplest ways of washing a bike is, just make it wet. Don't kind of hose it down hard. Make sure it's, all the dirt just comes off. And I usually have a bucket which has some soap inside, pretty done. And I have like 2 soft rags. One would first rinse the bike with soap, and second is just run the water down, bring the water down, and then just kind of dry it up. Go quickly heal it, and then start the bike and make sure the bike is running, and everything's kind of when you warm up the bike, the water just dries off on it. So you can see from the bike how fast it dried up, and it's pretty much designed to kind of, the water just drains off the bike. I have driven this bike in heavy duty rains and strong winds for 3.5 hours at a stretch. Kind of adventure, visibility poor. I was going relatively slow. I didn't cover too much distance, but the bike handled very well given those circumstances. Again, I keep repeating myself, but this bike is underpowered. Bike definitely, I don't like the whole engine sweating part. Kind of threw me off. In my earlier bike I owned for 12 years and never sweated. Of course, completely different brand. The Enfield was established in 1901 as a British company. The manufacturing in India probably needs a few more standards, some more QA to be applied when its bikes get rolled out, and then are sold international markets, which possibly may have different requirements than the Asian markets, because in Asia sometimes you don't need these kind of speeds, or even if the highways can allow that speed, just because of traffic, you just can't even ride that fast, maybe for short distances. And then for that, the 1-cylinder motorcycle is perfect, where you can for sustained high speeds. It doesn't like the sustained high speeds. The bike's in impeccable shape otherwise. It's nice and clean. This is the first rinse it ever got. Close to 3,700 miles, which is why, if you looked at it, it was still in a good shape. There was a lot of mud, on the tires and everything, but because it did 2 services, I guess the mechanics probably dusted the bike off, and during the oil change it probably wiped off a few things. I personally would have preferred an all black. Phone, the color I probably was red. I never planned this color. At first I actually didn't like it, then I kind of got used to it. The newer ones have different multiple colors. I believe there's blue or red. I guess there's white as well. And they have a dual color too. So I think, you can try different combinations. People customize their tanks and looks and so forth, how they want to do it. They also do a lot of mods. They also put more power in the bike. They use some kind of adjusters like Pragtronics and so forth, giving more power to the bike. I kept it completely stock and wanted to test the bike and so forth, and let the manufacturers design this at the manufacturing stage for the kind of purpose they're aiming for, and I'm probably the classic user for them. Something else that I should mention is at about 6,000 RPM, when you're trying to push it to the full power of this bike starts rattling quite a bit. It's sitting at 65 miles an hour, and the speedometer just jumps. So the speedometer will keep jumping at 65, it's not steady. So I would only know my speed, my actual speed from my GPS. The GPS tracks an actual speed of the vehicle, how fast the vehicle is moving. I always found this underpowered when I really needed the power, especially on highways. Otherwise, this bike is perfect for doing any other stuff, for the city, for the inner roads, for interstate highways and so forth. You're perfect. But on major highways where you are allowed speeds of 75 miles, sometimes 80 miles at times, this bike doesn't push it. If you're really pushing it hard, you're really pushing this bike, and you might land up damaging the bike. So it never stopped anywhere. It never compromised the power. It rattled a bit. I believe something was loose, but it kept going. So from the point of manufacturing, maybe I had the one that had some issues. I don't know. Let's talk about the front suspension. So it had 21-inch slimmer wheel in the front, and I think 18-inch in the back. It has great clearance and has great mileage. So the mileage of this bike is almost about 30 miles a gallon, which is kind of reported 30 to 35, depends on what you're driving. The bike does handle very well on high winds. I was absolutely impressed with it. The seating position is perfectly fine and upright. This is the stock bike. I have not done any modifications, no mods, no nothing, and it has done really well in the last 6 months. So the plus point of the bike is its frame, the rigidity, the look and the feel. It's actually pretty cool. The way it rides is absolutely amazing, and the sitting position is very comfortable, doesn't hurt your back, so you can actually go long distance. Had the engine been more powerful, I could try and attempt longer distances. One thing I also learned earlier in owning this bike in the first couple of days, that you have to lube this chain very regularly. So I did it at every 500 miles. It was pretty good. Braking. The braking is disc brake with ABS. ABS you cannot turn off on this model, but except once, I think at one point I felt the ABS engage in a weird way. The bike kind of did a little fishtail, but again, and the roads are not wet, which was kind of weird. So I don't know if there's something under the tire or a grit or rubble that I came under, but it did that once. Otherwise, the ABS does kick in at the right time. The braking is not as great as you would like to be. The bike does have very good power in second and third gears and fourth gears. It's a 5 gearbox, 1 down, 4 up. At 6,500 RPM, it gives full horsepower, and it has 32 nanometers of torque at 4,500 RPM. So it's great on lower gears, but within the US highways and within Canadian highways, we have average speed of 75 and above. Sometimes people go within 75, 80 miles. This bike has no power, no juice to keep it up. So you have to keep it in the roads, something between 55 to 60 miles an hour. It is okay. I've done 2 sectors which are pretty long. So I did Chicago to Toronto, which was 542 miles. And then I did Minnesota all the way down to Chicago, which was 600-1500 miles. So almost 13 hours, and there was 16 hours. Can this bike sustain that kind of long distances? Yes. Is the engine designed for that kind of long distances? I don't think so. So if it's Enfield listening to this, you need a train on Himalayan to make it successful here. Otherwise, it has its limitations. The only limitation is the engine, underpowered totally, and also the sweating part that I got bothered. I believe it's fixable. All the official oil changes were done exactly on time, and were done by official dealers too, exactly by the standards. But roughly at about 2,000 miles, the engine started sweating. Now, sweating, I've owned a lot of bikes over my last 20 plus years, and bikes don't sweat, the engines don't sweat that way. But I wanted to test the bike in these rains. I wasn't on inner roads, on highways. I came back, bike's not completely wet, I can't see a thing. Next day morning, complete dry, I see a leak, or a sweating as they call it, on the other side. This side, the engine leak was fixed, but if you touch the stuff on the top, you can still feel, you know, that there may be some sweating going on there. It is a bit underpowered bike for the American highways or roads, but again, you know, I think they were not aiming to ride this on those kind of highways, or if they were, then it's definitely underpowered, because you can't be on inner roads all the time. There are times you have to hustle, or there are times there's no roads available, like crossing into Canada. It's on major highways, right? But you know what? Single cylinder, also continuous driving. I don't think you know, that's what most of the bikes can handle. But for the price point, it's actually perfect. But as you know, to me, these are quality issues, and this should be not happening at least the first 20 or 30,000 miles. I mean, that's real quality. If you look at some of the other competitors, these things don't happen. Now, am I the odd guy that got it? Probably not, because this is a persistent issue. The way to fix that is, you know, some of these bolts, you take them out and they have a little copper you know, ring in them. So you use a little longer bolt with new copper rings and kind of seal them properly, possibly with a new gasket, and the issue is gone. That's where we are with this bike. Overall, the bike gets 3-star from me out of 5-star. 3-star, 5-star for the riding and what it does, 3-star for pretty much where the engine is and how it's underpowered. I'm going to take it back to the dealers. They are wonderful people. I trust them. They do some great work. So even they've been surprised that this has happened. So we're going to look into it. I think it's a solvable issue, but still not a good feeling. So that's something that, you know, I'm not very happy about, but it is what it is.
If you like watching Riding with Cash, hit subscribe and join me on the next ride.